Phil Collins has been molesting Paul's mum.
It's alive! Let's show this prehistoric bitch how we do things downtown.
Welcome to Empire of Geek, and on the show today we've got Florian.
Hello.
And we've got Florian, you brought a lady with you today.
Yes.
A little lady.
That lady's only 13 weeks old though, isn't she?
Not even.
Weeks?
Not even.
Not
Yeah.
even that. Not even that.
She'll be.
You're putting
30
Rolf
weeks.
Harris to shame at the moment.
Oh.
It's his daughter! It's his daughter!
That bit's getting dubbed out. We should try and have a clean episode.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Not
If I
good.
cut out all of the slightly close to knuckle bits, there'd be no show. It'd be like, welcome to Empire of Geek.
It's close to
Goodbye.
knuckle. It's close to knuckle, and then there's.
Have you ever heard the end? Have you heard the music from the end of the show? Do
Yeah.
Yes.
you like it? It's a Little Red Monkey. It's called, by the way. It's
As
Look
long
at
as
the
it's royalty
monkey,
free, I like it.
monkey. What I'm claiming that it's under fair usage because I cut it down so much.
Fair enough.
Yes.
We shouldn't tip off the authority, should we?
Well, that we mention it, it's a very old song, so it's quality. Jimmy Edwards sang it along with some other folks. It was from an old radio show called Tyke, I think it was called something like that. It was Tyfe, sorry. Yeah, something like that. But it was good. Anyway, I'm not about that. So, how have you been, Florian?
I've been very well, and somebody brought up Rolf Harris. So, did you see on? I don't normally do this, but on Facebook there was a very good tattoo of George Osborne on somebody's back. I don't know whether that's actually true or not, but it looked like. I don't think it was meant to look like George Osborne, but they then got it fixed in the pre-U-Tree era, and they got it made into a Rolf Harris.
I bet they regret that now. Oh, that's
what could
terrible.
possibly go wrong? Can you tell what it is yet?
And we've got Paul. How you doing,
Hello.
Paul? How have you been?
All right.
You're very tired though, aren't you, at the moment? We were going to record yesterday and then you fanned out of it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I took the easy option. I've just been getting up. I've been waking up. Don't ask me why. Subconscious reasons, probably unknowns to me.
That's Andy
Like,
crying at the moment. listeners.
Sorry.
I'm giving him some milk, so he's now.
Oh, put it away.
Put the teeth in a little bit further.
Feed from Daddy, Andy.
Bitty.
So come on, you've been very tired lately because of your chronic masturbation.
There is that. Yeah.
Now you've been getting up early, haven't you?
I've just been waking up early. I don't know why. I've just been waking up
Is
early.
it stress?
I don't feel stressed. I just feel like I'm waking up in the morning at 4:30, and then it's just a case of waking up and boing. You're awake.
What's the boing for?
You just out of bed.
We're all guys here, we know, don't we?
I think you know what I'm talking
And
about.
we've also got Andy,
Hiya.
who's looking strangely smart today, listeners.
But that we don't mean IQ-wise. We actually mean...
No, he's still the
In the
thick
dress
looking.
sense,
The
Still
thick
the
looking
goal
bastard
bearer
he was.
So I actually hesitated there, because even for me, that's quite a mean...
But he is actually quite smart in the sense that he can talk when he's got that dummy in his mouth. That
He's
teeth
smarter
is-
than
How
Rob.
mad is that?
Oh, look,
Rob
Rob,
would never
really
be listening to
confident,
this, so it's fine.
yeah, and listeners, you probably guessed that Raoul,
Is he
Rob,
tuning in
Sorry,
by Skype?
he was going to. It won't happen though because he's on a plane at the moment. So
So we're going to fill in for him? Those poor people.
Is he mainly in Spain, in the rain, on a plane, or is he actually flying somewhere?
He's going to Italy.
Florian's leaving the house now after that.
That was a musical reference.
Is
I
it-
see why we're leaving.
No, I'm a big fan of My Fair Lady as much as the next man.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were saying then? Sorry, I got distracted. You've been having a good week, Andy.
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, it's been all right. Thank you.
You going well so far?
Yeah, as weeks go, it's been all right.
Yeah, but you are looking very sharp today.
Thanks.
Anyway.
It's just what I wear normally in the week.
No, you. Oh yeah. Well, this is your workwear.
Yeah.
Ah, very nice. That's a very nice Aldi uniform you've got on. Right, we're going to talk about a few things to begin with. There's been last week, loads of people died, didn't they? Almost every celebrity ever who met had died last week. And the first one of these we want to talk about is Christopher Lee, who was a proper, I think you can say national treasure, and that gets used a lot.
Real shame.
A man who had done an absolute cartload of stuff, been in a ton of movies. He had supposedly was attached to the SAS in the Second World War. Famously said to Peter Jackson when they were filming the Lord of the Rings, there's a scene where Saruman was supposed to be stabbed in the back, and he said to them all, "Has anyone ever heard the sound of someone being stabbed in the back?" And they all went, "No." And he went, "I have several times." And gave them that knowing look. He was a record breaker as well. He was in, I think he was at one time he was a leading man in more films than anyone else in history at a particular time as well. And he was also the tallest leading man in films for a long time as well. A cunning linguist, he could speak many different languages. And you know they go on about the bacon number. Apparently, it was found out in around about 1995, whatever, that Christopher Lee was the most connected man in Hollywood. If you looked at who had worked on films and stuff with him. Mm-hmm. And he was a big heavy metal fan later in his life. So
he has got a look about him, hasn't he? I mean, you can't see the photograph, but he looks quite menacing. I know he's been in lots and lots of parts, but I want to read his autobiography. I want to find out a little bit more about, what he got up to during the war.
And one of his biggest fans was David Cameron, right?
Really?
Apparently, he tweeted.
You see, he will know.
Oh yeah, I saw that, and then the response to it from
and
people.
the public took to it well. Yes.
Yeah, he was. Really interesting guy, and apparently a lot of the stuff he did when he was in the war, they're not allowed to talk about even now.
Yeah. You see, David Cameron will know. He'll know exactly what he got up to, won't he? Because he'll have access to all the files.
I did remember hearing one story. I watched when he died. I watched an episode of This Is Your Life when it used to be on.
Oh, brilliant!
And they go, this is a chap you work with, and it was like some bloke said something. It was Oliver Reed came out, and Oliver Reed was saying that they were working on a film together, and every single day Christopher Lee, because he had his car, would pick them up, and he would charge them something like 5 shillings. And they said that all the way driving to where the studio was, he would sing at the top of his voice, "Do a deer, a female deer," all the way in a strange operatic voice. And another story I heard them say about him was they
Was
brought...
it worth the 5 shilling?
Probably not. And another story they told about him was he was in Tunisia, I think, during the war at one point, and his commanding kind of wing commander, because he was attached to the RAF to begin with, I think he was in. His wing commander said, "We've got a phone call through. You can speak Russian, can't you?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "We need you at the end of the runway, ready for a pickup in full kind of winter gear." And obviously Tunisia very hot, and he was stood out there for apparently hours before he realised that his commanding officer was winding him up. They just set him up for it. But yeah, really interesting guy. Played a ton of villains. Can you, Andy? Can you name many of the villains as a lover of all films?
Count Dooku.
Count Dooku, recent film, well done.
And just Lord of the Rings. And then
And Lord of the
He was
Rings.
Dracula, wasn't he?
Saruman, Dracula. He played
Scaramanga.
with his
Yeah,
3
of course.
nipples. And he was also in the 3 Musketeers as... I've forgotten his flipping
Richelieu?
name now. Not Cardinal Richelieu, it was the other... The guy with the eye patch who worked with him. I've forgotten his flaming name now.
You sure you're not thinking of Harry Potter?
No. No, what was his name?
He was actually in Harry Potter. That's probably one of the few franchises he wasn't in.
That's true, actually.
He was
That is-
probably no, he wasn't.
Played Death in the Discworld games, if you ever played any of them. And in some of the animated
Yeah, but
cartoons.
Death isn't a baddie.
Oh, no, but obviously.
Yeah.
He did play Sherlock Holmes as well, if you're talking about goodies as well.
Yeah.
It'll come back to me later on.
Hound of the Baskervilles.
You see,
He was in
The
Hound of
delay
Baskerville,
is
yeah.
not having Rob, because Rob would have googled it by now.
He would. I'm going to do a bit of a Raoul now and Google it.
Would you do
Sorry,
his
I
voice?
keep calling him by the wrong name.
Were you doing his voice?
When I find it out, I will do it in my best Raoul voice for you.
Okay.
Oh, what was his name? Is the fighty guy? Because Cardinal Richelieu doesn't do much
I know
scrapping.
you mean.
does he?
Oh,
I can see his
the
face.
captain of the guard.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
what's
God.
his bloody name?
Franken hell.
Frinkin' hell. I wish it was that his name. Oh, and the amount of times though, as I've been growing up, that I've been talking to people about the Three Musketeers.
Yeah.
Like, which is your favourite one from the Musketeers? And the amount of time people have said to me, D'Artagnan. I'm like, D'Artagnan he was a musket hound.
He's a
He
musket
wasn't.
hound,
He wasn't an actual.
I did think for some years though, after watching D'Artagnan and the Three Musketeers, that was actually his name. For some years, yeah.
A lot of people think it was.
Yeah.
I was only about 8 or 9 at the time though.
D'Artagnan is quite poncy. D'Artagnan brings it down to the people's level, I think.
Mind you, I thought for some time that Roald Dahl's name was Ronald Dahl.
Ronald Dahl, that's ace.
I'm talking about my formative years. I mean, I was quite young.
There's no excuse though.
Being stupid.
Richelieu was Charlton Heston in the films I was
as well.
talking about. Yeah, wasn't he? And
Over my dead body.
He said that a few times, actually, about the
NRA.
Rochefort, that's who he played.
Rochefort.
Oh, sorry, what did the Rob state about? Dudes, it says... They wouldn't let us know it was off his phone, would he? He'd pretend that he did.
I
just remember...
was it Rochefort?
One of my friends told me.
Yeah, Rochefort. Do you remember they did sequels to the Three Musketeers, which is where Roy Kinnear died, didn't he? He fell off the horse.
Who died, sorry?
Roy Kinnear, who played Planchet, the kind of the chunky one who kind of followed the Musketeers around.
Yeah.
He was kind of D'Artagnan's man at arms or servant, whatever. Yeah, he died because I remember that was one of the first films that I recall where I knew that the guy died before the ending of it, and I think they either used a double or something in some scenes because there's a bit at the end where he's riding off and it's his voice, but you don't see him on it anymore. A bit like when Oliver Reed died in Gladiator.
I was going to say that. You know, I mean, it's a good job that he managed to finish. Because he was an old dude, wasn't he? It's a good job he managed to finish The Hobbit when he did. You know, because The Hobbit's only recently finished, wasn't it? The third.
He said though, didn't he? He never turned down acting jobs, even in his old age. He was always looking for work.
It's just a shitter that if I'd known that, we could have had him on the podcast. In those final Hobbit films, I don't think he could walk very well, so they filmed everyone else in New Zealand and he was filmed in England.
It's
and
incredible that he
combined it.
Was that true?
Yeah. He was filmed separately in England.
They just used CGI just to sort of...
They had a stand-in, someone dressed up as him for some shots.
They, to be fair, they do that quite often. Like when you see like actors from behind talking over the shoulder shots, they do that. They have quite a lot of stand-ins.
Yeah, because they can't be asked to do it, can they?
Isn't that what they did with Ollie Reed then?
Or to speed it up.
With Oliver Reed they used computer technology to put his face onto...
Yeah, because he was in the last scene, wasn't he? He gets stabbed, doesn't he?
Yeah. But I think he was going to escape originally if he wouldn't have died in the film. I'm sure he would have escaped from it. Right. Also, since I said lots of people have died last week, was Ron Moody, who unfortunately didn't really get much of a mention on account of the fact that Christopher Lee had died. Now, Ron Moody, famous for the role of Fagin in Oliver Twist. He was a really interesting man. He seemed like a really nice guy as well. He was a radar mechanic in the armed services. Famously turned down the role of the Third Doctor, and John Pertwee got it instead. That probably his most regrettable thing he ever did. He was also famous when he was on stage and in films for pissing off a lot of his directors because he started off as a bit of a stand-up comedian or improvisational comedy and stuff. So he was terrible at following lines. He would always put his own lines in, which I think a lot of the other actors with him would
And
annoy
script
them.
writers just love it.
Yeah,
Brilliant, yeah. That's what they're getting paid
I spent a
for.
year working on that.
Yeah.
And he was also in Animals of Farthing Wood. He did a voice in that, which I know him from. But yeah, Ron Moody, that is an iconic character Fagin was. Oliver, Dodger. Yeah, so he died.
He's very old.
He was
It looks a bit
cracking on.
like Fiddler on the Roof.
He does a little bit as far as
In the
Jewish people go. It was Topol in Fiddler on the Roof, wasn't it?
No, yeah, I don't know.
And who did Topol play in a film in Flash Gordon? He was Hans Zarkov. Look at us geeking it up. So
The silence spoke volumes.
I was expecting a round of applause.
Flash. Yeah.
And finally, I'm a big wrestling fan. We don't talk about much wrestling on the show, although I managed to crowbar a bit in. The common man, Dusty Rhodes, died as well last week. Virgin Runnels was his real name. He famous for being rather large and a wrestler. He had the bionic elbow, which he used to do. One of the best speakers and talkers in wrestling ever. And some of his matches, considering the fact he was such a big guy, some of his matches when he was younger were brilliant. The scene in where he would improvise stuff as well when they were wrestling. There's a bit where he's fighting Ric Flair and this other guy, and he gives him the bionic elbow and all that. And there's a woman called Baby Doll at ringside. And it's a tag team match. He leans to the ropes and kisses her. The audience go mad. And as he walks past his tag team partners, he leans over and kisses him as well, which was completely improvised. But when you watch it, it's very funny to see him do it. And he pegged it. And one of his most famous speeches he did was about hard times. He went, "It's hard times, Daddy. I'm going to lay hard times on you, Ric Flair." And in that speech, he said, "There's two bad men, and one of them's dead. and he was referencing John Wayne. And it's funny enough that John Wayne died on June the 11th, 1979, and Dusty Rhodes died on June the 11th.
Did he
this
travel
year.
back in time and also die in 79?
No, he died this year.
Oh my
But-
god, that would have been a wrestle move. Travel to slam down so hard.
There's not much time travel in the WWE, but I'm sure they'll bring it in.
Well, you should jazz it up.
It doesn't need jazzing up. Wrestling's perfect as it is.
Well, they're jazzing it up in other ways, which we'll find out later. I won't mention. I'm not going to ruin it.
And American Dream, that was his name. He was known as the American Dream. Had a very famous theme tune.
Oh dear, was it a nightmare?
American Dream. So yeah, they're three absolute superstars who died this week. Big fans of them all. Now let's leave death behind for the moment, and let's get on to this new show that was, I think, on the second episode now, and it's Humans. Have you watched it now?
I watched the first episode last night and was immediately into it. Liked it. It was contemporary. I mean, it's set now, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
They sort
Or
of
just in the future.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like, although you wouldn't.
Settle
know
yourself
really
down, listeners. It's James's spot.
Hey, get comfortable. Or maybe some time.
I'd like to, at the beginning of your
Are you
spot,
having a poo?
Can you tell?
I'd like to dub in the step tone of some theme tune of James's spot. So tell us what you thought of it then.
That was good. That was really good. Really engaging. Really engaging.
Is that what you're going to say on it?
That's what I'm going to say, yeah.
Jesus wept.
Well, there was something else I wanted to say.
But they're not about this. This is about you not liking me a bit at the moment or something, are they?
No, it was really. I really liked it. I thought it was a really interesting idea.
Did you feel... Well, the storyline is, if you've not watched it, listeners, is set in the very near future, like Paul said, and these things called synth, which are domestic kind of androids, which look very realistic. And in the storyline, it's been a world where they've had them for a long time, haven't they? Because there's earlier models of them. And the storyline sets up that some of these synths have kind of almost gained kind of consciousness.
Yeah,
And they're on the run.
I thought actually, I think there's a direct reference to Blade Runner. I think in terms of, the way that they were questioning the use of synths and the way that they are, slaves. There's the reference to they are slaves, but they don't have their own consciousness. Well, the assumption is at the moment they don't have their own consciousness, but there are some Sith that are on the run. We don't know whether or not there's a Sith who's actually the leader.
Did you say Sith?
I thought he said Sith as well.
Sorry, synth.
There's Darth Maul in the background.
There's a synth in the series that we keep seeing. Yeah, but we're not quite sure at the moment whether or not he is actually a synth or is a human.
Yeah, they've not said yet.
They've made that a bit ambiguous, haven't they? But I thought there was a lot of reference to, the ideas that we saw in Blade Runner, which was.
For a bonus point, which I'll add on to Ultimo Geek next week or next episode, what's the test in Blade Runner called that they give to work out if you're an android or not? Can anyone remember?
It's called the.
Well, for a simple computer machine, I know that's a Turing test, but that's not the actual.
Do you give up? Shall I take that point away?
Oh, hang on a sec. I'm going to think.
I'm working on my memory.
Flipping
It's
test.
the
reflex test, isn't it?
It's the Voight-Kampff test that they give them.
Is that actually just made up, or is there some research behind it?
What behind the
the
answer
name.
I gave from the film? I've just invented something.
Would you agree with that then? Do you think there are
Well, Philip K. Dick invented it, presumably. But I can't remember that.
It's a series of questions to work out if you're human or not.
Similar questions. I mean, and similar questions about their rights.
And it's the responses. It checks the responses. I think to things.
And
Well, they're talking about. Sorry.
No.
Blade Runner. They were talking about androids. Not androids. Sorry. Skin jobs that actually develop their own emotional responses.
Sounds a bit naughty, doesn't it? A skin job.
But that's what they talk about, isn't it? It talks about in Blade Runner's job was to get rid of these.
Have you ever seen attack ships burn over Mars?
Yes. I've seen attack ships. Yeah. I've seen things you people.
So,
etc.
to humans.
I can't let this episode pass without mentioning Uncanny Valley, which is clearly what they've gone for here in the look of the humans. But also, I'm a bit sore about this because I sort of thought I would immediately like it.
See, sat in remote control.
And other excuses. I sounded really hard on it. I sort of initially I thought I'd watch it right off the bat and so on. I haven't yet because it's sort of annoys me a little bit because Isaac Asimov's robots, basically, that I've been sort of thinking about this, but it could have been done so cheaply, but so well, and Humans is sort of getting there without the sort of philosophy, really, or without the rules behind it.
I think.
So,
do you think they mention Asimov's?
Do they have the laws of robotics?
I think they might. I might be inventing this.
There's certainly in the introduction when they're playing the music, there's various different references to technologies which have led to the development of
I
this,
thought a
and
character.
they're not real
I'm
things.
sure a character mentioned. I need to watch it again if I'm going to say, but I
you
thought
can't
someone
really
had
discuss
mentioned
it without mentioning Asimov.
Yeah, I'm sure they said Asimov's laws. I'm sure they had that in it.
I know I should watch it, really.
So, but the thing about this show is it's made by AMC, who do Mad Men stuff in America, but also do The Walking Dead, a huge show, and Channel 4 working together. Stars William Hurt, the American actor. Obviously, that'll bring in the American interest. But it's the most successful Channel 4 show for about 20 years.
Yeah.
They pulled in 6 million viewers, which is a 23% share of the overall audience, which is almost unheard of in a time when we have cable TV. That's the kind of figures you would have got back when we just had terrestrial stuff. So it's done massively well. 20 years ago, the Chamomile Lawn was the most successful show that Channel 4 had ever had.
I did think there was some really interesting directions that we're going to see the story go in, and some really, really clever tensions, like the android that's bought for the household and for the family. You can see there's a suggestion that she's already thinking for herself.
It looks like she was thinking for herself. They captured her, but she still maintained some of her independence.
That's what I mean. Is it an act, or there was definitely a plan? Is she acting? Is she becoming conscious of her surroundings? She's looking at photographs on the windowsill. She challenges a girl who, in a nice way, but she challenges a girl who's going to fire an air rifle at her head, doesn't she? Why would you like to do that? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And sort of lowers the rifle down. So I think it's a really clever directions that the story's going to go in. I've only seen the first episode. Second one's on 4OD now, isn't it?
Yeah, go and get it now. We spoke a few weeks ago about the BBC One's Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, how much we enjoyed it. It got hammered by Humans. It was on at the same time and got just 1.6 million viewers, which is the third of its launch audience 5 weeks ago. Now, shows always start off big and then they lose some people, but the second episode of Humans lost a few, but hardly anything, compared it's within what you expected for a show that's a big hit.
Well, I recorded the second episode of Humans, actually. I've got it on my Digibox. And I watched Jonathan Strange because I watched it from the beginning. And I watched every episode, so I just wanted to keep watching it.
Which is best?
Oh, they're different. They're just different. I think Humans is a lot more serious. And I think Jonathan Strange is a bit more tongue-in-cheek. But it's a bit more comic book, I think. But it's still really engaging. And it's got some really exciting, ideas about going into this sort of fairyland and where it's going to take, where they're going to go. Lots of adventures to be had, I think. But I love them both. They're really good.
I think headline viewing figures of the live show are one thing, but nowadays, I mean, as you say, you record it, and I know we've discussed this as well, that viewing habits are changing and people are doing box sets. So I wouldn't be surprised if actually, in the end, they come out pretty equal. Those two shows in terms of viewing figures. If you then add in the downloads or the...
I think on that 6 million they did take into account downloads for some... I don't know how they're tracking it, but...
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, just one other thing. The only thing I was going to say is that I think that I just wonder whether or not Humans might have less of a longevity than Jonathan Strange. Just because I can see, I don't know for sure how it's going to go, but I can see that if they do gain consciousness, then is it going to become a bit of a chase? Just a chase? So the series becomes about chasing down these humans. Where's it going to go? Whereas I think Jonathan Strange has got a lot more... It seems to be a little bit more slower pitched, with a lot more possibilities.
Possibly. I suppose in Humans, they'll reach a certain point, everyone's aware that they've got consciousness,
Exactly.
and
What happens next?
then they'll want to treat them like another species or whatever, I'm guessing.
Will they be accepted?
Sure.
Yeah. It's either they get accepted and a series,
which
or
was
they
all
don't.
done in Star Trek: The Next Generation with Data. So I love those episodes where you'd get, was it someone like Dr. Pulaski or someone would come in and try and prove that he's not kind of...
Data's Day, isn't it?
Yeah.
But also, the theme has been explored ever since Frankenstein, really, or possibly golems before that, Terry Pratchett, another person who's died quite recently, obviously massively successful. He always had the idea that golems are people, and eventually.
The like civil rights movement.
They did hint actually at the human, about the sense taking over, didn't they? Or humans, or machines creating other machines.
Yeah.
And humans becoming inferior. And at that point, the tipping point, what's going to happen?
The whole kind of sense thing, Frankenstein, the idea that you could take, well, like with Frankenstein, this lumps of kind of meat, pack it together into this kind of form, and that eventually it could develop feelings and emotions is really interesting. Andy?
They always, nice little cue.
That's right. It would have been directed Robert who's here.
Thank you.
I'm addressing you for a reason. One of the things we want to talk about as well is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Gets a lot of stick for getting made pregnant and general terribleness that he does, but he does a lot for charity. Now that doesn't let people off, because we all know people who did lots for charity who did lots of horrible things as well.
Who would that be?
Really?
I've
never heard about that.
We're not at liberty to say.
Who's that?
Jimmy Savile.
Right, okay.
I always try to avoid the spectre of Jimmy Savile on our shows, but he always seems to appear.
How many times has he appeared?
Children, now then.
There he is.
We could do that, the ghost of Jimmy Savile. Oh, we can't really do that.
Let's have controversy.
Well, I get a few complaints.
Let's not have that in the show, I've decided now.
Yeah, let's not.
Right, Arnold Schwarzenegger did lots of bad stuff and all that, but he works for... There's a charity he works called Amaze, which arranges after-school clubs for kids. And he's done some absolutely cool stuff for it just recently. And if you go on the internet, listeners, you can see some of these on YouTube. For example, a year or so ago, he gave people the chance to enter this contest. Obviously, they submit some money and all that. And he picks someone, and they come around his house in America, and he drives them around in his tank, smashing stuff. The fact that Arnold Schwarzenegger has a tank is just brilliant. This year, he is doing a similar thing, but you can come around his house and blow shit up. Which just looks brilliant. And also what he's done for them is, because Terminator Genesis, spelt wrong, is coming out, there's a video, and it's very funny, of him going around kind of Hollywood, and he goes into Madame Tussauds.
Yeah, it's very cool.
He should have gone into the Louis Tussauds next door. And it's him pretending to be a waxwork model of him, then kind of scaring people. And he also goes out on the street and meets a Terminator impersonator outside the Grauman's Chinese theatre.
Which he seemed quite shocked about, didn't he?
Yeah, it would
I
be.
wonder who was baiting it, was he?
But yeah, it was good. What did you think, Andy? You're a fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
You got his pictures on your wall, dude.
What is your hero?
Is it the one where he plays tennis and scratches his ass?
Yes, it is.
Must have missed that one.
Yeah, you're a big fan. Yeah. I'm not coming to Andy again for anything. Right.
No, I thought it was good.
They're good. They're worth going to watch, aren't they? That's what we're saying. They're a hoot. Arnie comes across quite well. I'm almost forgiving him for cheating on his wife and getting some woman pregnant. And also, supposedly didn't he pressure women into having sexual relations with him?
I think there's loads of historical stuff came out, like things that he did back in the past.
Yeah, I think he was quite naughty when he was young.
That wouldn't have happened in the UK, would it? Things coming out slowly.
No.
Celebrities have done in the past.
Well, he never was a radio DJ, was he? Because they're all filthy.
It's amazing he made good.
Thankfully, he was never as powerful as that, being the governor.
Yeah.
But he smoked pot and everything like that, didn't he?
But he didn't inhale like Bill Clinton. It's all okay.
Oh, it's alright then.
The next thing I want to talk about is a few episodes ago we talked about this idea of a new Star Trek TV show. Recently I was reading about the fact that when J.J. Abrams did the new films about Star Trek, his intention was to have a companion TV series to go along with it as well. And that never came to fruition. And so there was some talk a month or so ago about this very old pitch by Bryan Singer, Robert Burnett and Christopher McQuarrie. This pitch they were going to do, which they tried to do yonks ago, it got ignored, and recently, apparently, someone was going to bring it all back, and they were going to do that pitch. But then Christopher McQuarrie said, that's a load of crap, we've not heard anything about it. And so it looked like that whole story was a load of balls, but it now looks like we may actually be getting some Trek, and it's going to be very different because CBS have decided, apparently, that they're going to look outside the industry to find it, and they're looking at this chap called Michael Gummelt. He has been running his own Star Trek website, Uncharted, and you'll find loads of these on the internet if you go and look them up. There's even people who make their own Star Trek continued episodes that you can go and see. And if you go to www.StarTrekUnchartedAllWord.com, you can see, and he's written his own series, which is set 200 years after Kirk, and the premise of it is that there's been a big galactic war, the Romulans attack everyone, everything's been trashed, and some new kind of hyperdrive type thing is invented, which allows them to travel to the Andromeda galaxy, where there's all new aliens and stuff like that. So that's basically the story. It's a new space folding technology that's been developed, and they get contacted by these creators from, who supposedly created our universe or our galaxy. Sorry. And that's what it's about. It's a new Enterprise in a new galaxy with new aliens, popping back occasionally to see the familiar things we know. But what do we think, Florian? You're a big fan
of
well, everything.
This is difficult, isn't it? Because I'm a big fan of Star Trek in general. Not so. I mean, every Trekkie has got their sort of.
Well, you're a big Voyager fan, aren't you?
I'm huge. I didn't think Voyager could in any way be topped, except.
And then they came out with Enterprise.
Actually, Enterprise isn't all that bad. It certainly didn't deserve the whole tagline of "This is how you killed Enterprise." Peculiar, but no, it's if it has a long-time story arc, I think that's where they actually have the best development, and it's plenty of scope. I did actually say in jest, well, half jest to you, it could be a good Voyager, essentially. I mean, Voyager, the first season I didn't mind so much, but it was just incredibly annoying. Because the starship would get shot at, and Janeway would never bloody raise the shields. They might be friends. They're shooting at you. That kind of thing. But the last season was not too bad of it, but that was because they brought the Borg in, and anything with the Borg in it is sort of probably alright. But this basically has the scope, potentially. What I would actually be really excited...
Must say, I never really enjoyed any of those tennis-themed episodes.
Tennis-themed?
Yes, with Bjorn Borg.
Oh, dear. And you say my joke. Okay. But no, I would have seriously got really excited by an actual civilian thing. And I thought in the Next Generation there are a couple of episodes where they followed the crew of freighters and stuff like that. And I think that would have been really, really good. But because that was the original intention of Gene Roddenberry, to actually have it as a civilian thing, not as a military thing. In Star Trek, the original series obviously broke new ground. I'm not sure this will break entirely new ground. I think the Next Generation did because of the CGI, and because in some ways of the... Bless you, that's my daughter sneezing there. Thank you for making me lose my plot. No, but it's... I think it needs to be fresh, but it also needs to be breaking new ground. And in some ways, it may run the danger of Enterprise / Voyager recycling.
Yeah.
And I think that's... DS9 was new because it was a station, it was actually stationary. Some people hated it, some people loved it. I personally loved it. I thought it had one of the best story arcs of any of them.
I love DS9.
Yeah. The last episode was shit. The very last episode, the penultimate episode was absolutely brilliant, which made the last episode look even shitter. And the ending was, there wasn't anything resolved. They went into this saying at the end of DS9 we'll resolve everything. So I would really like to see a new Star Trek
I've never seen the last episode of DS9. I've seen the
don't do
penultimate
that to
one,
yourself.
but the following week...
He jumps into a volcano. Well, no, he doesn't jump, he gets pushed.
Is it the par race?
Yeah, it's just literally... The penultimate episode is where they should have left it, if anything.
I was doing... I think it was... What did I have on? It might have been Duke of Edinburgh. And I may have been wearing a dress. Yeah, I can't remember what it was. It might have been Duke of Edinburgh, so I couldn't go to the last one. Stupid Duke of Edinburgh. Racist. Ruined Star Trek. Yeah, so what do you reckon? Do you like the...
Well, franchise. Only kidding! No, it looks great. I love Star Trek, always have done. I'm a Next Generation guy, kind of guy. Always loved it so much. But yeah, it looks good.
I was really worried when the Next Generation first came out. I remember going into the video shop that they had at the forum, and I saw it must have come out on Sky or whatever it was shown on, but because we only had terrestrial TV, because my mum didn't like technology and stuff, we didn't get a microwave for years or a phone. She was terrified that the microwave would kill us all. Until she worked with one. She went and worked at some place and she came home and she was like, we've got to get a microwave, it's amazing. So, I forgot my point. I remember seeing this Star Trek Next Generation. I thought, I like Star Trek, watching the original series. I looked at it, and the fact there was a bald captain, I had a real thing against bald people at the time. And it was like, oh, bald man, black man with a hairband over his eyes. I'm not sure, but I watched it and it was brilliant. And
I said this in one of the other episodes. I liked it so much because it was just so proactive and positive and totally, I think a lot of the feel of the 90s was very positive and right on, wasn't it? And it was about a utopian future, which was good, and everyone was trying their best to kind of get on and learn and discover new things.
I am Locutus of Borg. I loved that bit.
All right, there were some bad guys in there, but we were trying to find out about the universe.
Bad stuff did happen. Like, was it Wolf 359?
Sorry?
The massacre at Wolf 359? Is that episode? Am I being too geeky for the...
No, that's fine. No. I do remember that, generally speaking...
Thanks, mentioning that made my daughter cry, so well done. The massacre...
Bad man. So selfish. Yeah. So I just thought, I just have memories of it. I suppose I watched it when it first came out. It'd been about 13, 14, 15, something like that.
Do you see my little hammer? I got it for Father's Day. It's not my penis if you're listening at home. What I think this...
is it Mjolnir?
What do you
hammer with that?
It's Mjolnir.
A hammer in the morning, a hammer in the evening, all over this town.
More appropriate if I say...
Land even.
It's the
source hammer.
I got it for Father's Day off Lisa. She thought, off Sam. He got me a little hammer.
Yeah.
It's good, isn't it?
You see my taser?
No.
Do you shout hammer time before you hit someone with it?
Anyone wearing my big trousers. What I think this could be good for is Voyager lost me a lot on that because it was completely new aliens, whereas in Star Trek I want to see new stuff, but I also want to be reminded quite regularly of the Klingons and other wiping related problems and the Romulans and the Ferengi. And so that's why I like Deep Space Nine so much, because you had the Ferengi, you had Quark and stuff on, and you had Klingons invading it when they were fighting against the was it Gamma Quadrant or whatever it was called? Or Delta Quadrant. Delta Quadrant, yeah. Oh yeah, because Voyager was trapped in the Gamma Quadrant, weren't they?
Anyway.
Yeah, sorry.
I didn't watch Voyager that closely after the first season.
I like Star Trek.
Man, like it, he's got a photographic memory, this man.
So the next thing we want to talk about is we've spoken about Lucifer, which was that show which the Million Mothers slagged off. Well, Neil Gaiman's got another show that's going to be made, and it's American Gods. American Gods is a very, very good book that he wrote. And they've released, Stars are going to make it, the Stars Network. Now, until recently, I assumed, why would anyone watch the Stars Network? It sounds shit. But I started watching Black Sails, which is one of the best TV shows I've seen for a long time.
Yeah, you said, didn't you? Yeah.
And that's done by Stars. So this new TV show, American Gods, they've released some artwork for it to get you all excited, which is if you look on the internet, listeners, you'll be able to find it. But this new show, apparently it's going to have Brian Fuller and Michael Green, who are from Heroes and Hannibal, together, and Neil Gaiman is going to be the executive producer on it, which sounds pretty good. So the plot of American Gods is this, that the storyline is that gods are powered by our thoughts. So if we believe in gods, they exist. And this is set in America, and it's the book is about almost this character Shadow who's travelling around America with Mr. Wednesday. And he finds that all the very old gods are still around, but obviously weakened and old. And there's new gods, and the new gods are stuff like kind of drugs, money, and all the other things that, like the media, celebrity, and stuff like that.
That's a well clever idea.
And so what it is, it's there's going to a war's brewing between the old gods and these new gods. And so the storyline follows this chap Shadow as he prepares for the run-up to the war. And there's some very exciting twists in it and the play around. But not to give too much away, but the guy Wednesday who works as he's hired as this Mr. Wednesday's bodyguard. He finds out that Mr. Wednesday is Odin. But the interesting thing is that this is in America, so all these gods that exist there, these old ones, have come over with immigrants. There are bits when he goes to other countries and he meets the real original Odin. Because obviously you can have a god existing in different lands based on the people who live there and their beliefs in them. So it's a really, really exciting idea, and this is going to be made for TV soon. So what do you... Obviously I've only got to show you the artwork that we've got here, but just the premise of that, what do you reckon?
I've always loved Neil Gaiman's stuff. The premise sounds brilliant. He's very clever. He's a very intelligent guy. His storylines are always kind of weaved with lots of interesting twists and turns. I'm reading a Neil Gaiman book at the moment. I can't remember what it's called though. It's based in London. It's about there's an alternate world that exists under London, and I can't remember the name of it though. But I've only just started reading it. It's bloody good. Do you know it?
Yes, I do know it, and it's going to come back to me in a second.
I can see the front cover, but I can't think.
The Angel Islington is in it as well, and Hammersmith.
Yeah, I've only just started reading it, and it has got a lot of...
Neverwhere, it's called.
No, that's the one. Yeah, that's
look at...
such a photographic memory. But it's good. It's really interesting, because having lived in London, it's nice that they've got all those references in there, and, the real places. And
Did you ever watch the TV show, Neverwhere?
No.
Back in the 90s, possibly, they did a TV show. I had a video of it that I got given by someone. It was an interesting... Warren Clark was in it, I'm pretty sure.
Oh.
It was an interesting show. It's set in the subway underneath. Again, this idea about places having a...
alternate...
being personified.
It's
Neverwhere.
I just think he's very clever. He thinks about things in a way... Well, it's unique, isn't it? Different.
Yeah, it's cool. It's pretty much everything he's done is really good. So, American Gods looks cool. What do you reckon, Florian? I know you're busy with child.
I was reminded of a television series from New Zealand where the Norse gods are reborn into a New Zealand family, basically, and that was quite good. I saw bits and bobs of it, but it was like all of these sort of slightly marginal television programs. They get broadcast at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever. So it's like, hello.
Big fan of it.
A big fan. But also it reminds me of the Terry Pratchett book, Small Gods.
Yeah, Small Gods.
I suspect he's taking a little inspiration from that. But it's quite a common theme. I mean, Stargate did the same thing with basically the Ori, who are powered by the worshippers and so on.
Yes, that's right, isn't it? Sorry.
Yeah, but it looks cool, and as long as they don't turn it into some kind of procedural police drama like they seem to be wanting to do with Lucifer, it should be pretty cool. I think Stars will do a smashing job. If it's anything like Black Sails, there'll be plenty of money put into it, and the storyline will be cool. I wouldn't actually mind reading American Gods. I've read little bits and pieces of it, but I would love to actually read the book now. I've been reading a bit more on it for this show here. Right, the next thing we're going to talk about is the most awesome film ever, Pro Wrestlers vs. Zombies. This it's not new, incidentally, listeners. This was filmed in 2013 by the director Cody Knotts. An early version of the film was shown at the International Horror Festival in Whitby, England, in October 2013. I think that was 2014 it was shown. Tell a lie. And then it was produced by Principalities of Darkness, and it's distributed by Troma Entertainment, who do loads of stuff like The Toxic Avenger. We've watched the trailer, which you can find on YouTube. What did you make of it? Who wants to start us off? What are you giggling about?
Well, it's utter crap, isn't it? But
how dare you? How dare you, sir?
I know you like wrestling, but it almost feels like it's an inevitable twist on the theme of zombies, that somebody somewhere thought, I've got a great idea. Let's put loads of wrestlers in there, and they can fight the zombies. So it's almost like a natural progression, something that hasn't been done before. But the trailer does look like utter codswallop, doesn't it? But it's going to be entertaining. I'd watch it just on the basis of seeing, what happens. But it's going to be awful acting, and it's going to be lots of lots of pretend prosthetic limbs being thrown around and blood and gore, isn't it?
Probably no plot to speak of.
The best bit is that I'll explain you the plot if you want in a minute.
Explain the plot.
best bit- the
Jesus,
best
we're not
bit-
that remedial.
The best bit comes at the end where he says, "This is ever ridiculous."
This is the
It
plot
is.
line. This features, if you're a wrestling fan like me, were you a wrestling fan, Andy?
Back in the day, yeah.
So you've
Back
seen
in
the
the day
trailer,
of
haven't you?
1990s.
Right.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan, was he a little bit
Yeah.
before your time?
Ho!
Matt Hardy, obviously.
Hardy Boys.
Yeah, Matt Hardy's in it. Shane Douglas, who was in ECW. ECW. If you ever go and watch wrestling and anything slightly hardcore happens, everyone goes, ECW was there's WWF, WCW and ECW, which was kind of run by Paul Heyman, which was the hardcore barbed wire match style stuff that they would do. And Shane Douglas was the main man in ECW. Do you remember ECW, Ashley? Despite the fact- you've got Hacksaw Jim Duggan in it. You got. Sorry, listeners, my dog keeps coming in and out of the room and annoying everyone. You've also got Rowdy Roddy Piper in it, quite a famous actor, and a host of other people, including Kurt Angle. Do you remember the Olympic champion Kurt Angle?
Yeah.
And wrestler? This is the plot line for it. Ashleen, don't interrupt me. The plot line is this. Shane Douglas accidentally kills another wrestler in the wrestling ring. The brother of that wrestler uses some kind of necromantic powers to bring back a horde of zombies to kill the wrestlers when he tricks them to do a show in some abandoned prison. So that is essentially what the plot line is. And it looks... Sometimes when I used to watch old horror films, I think, isn't it a shame you don't see old kind of horror films like this, like Brain Dead and stuff like that?
Yeah.
This looks like an old style horror film, doesn't it? With the lack of budget,
Yeah, it looked like a really, really bad B movie.
over the top
movie from
kind of guts and stuff.
the late 1970s or something like that.
So that is out now if you want to go and find it. If you just look on the internet for pro wrestlers versus zombies. I think it looked really cool. It's the kind of film that I would watch, I think. So,
You like wrestling and zombies? Guess what my stance on that is going to be? I'm not a huge wrestling fan.
but zombies.
The zombies are right up my alley, yeah.
Are they?
Like, no,
I'd say talks about that.
not really.
Which leads us on to the last feature of the show, this show, which is a new one, and it's called Would You Believe It? Basically, I got this idea because a colleague of
Finally,
mine...
we're talking the truth here
Yeah.
on the show. Yeah.
A colleague of mine, I discovered, is a nutter. Nice nutter. But he came up to me and he started telling me some stuff, and I thought he was joking, first of all. I can't name names.
Oh, okay.
But he came up to
Whisper.
me...
Mouth it.
No, I'm not going to... I'm sat next to the recording device. So this chap came up to me and he started talking to me
Oh, okay.
at my day job, and he was... we were on about aliens and stuff like that, and I was making the joke that what happens if aliens are really, really big and time for them passes, really, really slowly. So the point I was making was, what happens if these aliens think that they went to Earth last year, but for us it's been thousands and thousands of years, and that they come back, and when they come back they visit the seaside, which is Egypt, and that all the pyramids is just like buckets and spades. They're just building great big sandcastles and leaving them, and we're thinking more of it. So I'm saying this, and it's just bullshit that I'm talking, ladies and gents. And then this guy comes over and he goes, well, there's the chances of there being aliens is 1 in 1. It's a fact. It's a fact. Bermuda Triangle. There's an alien spaceship hidden underneath there that explains the disappearances. Phoenix, 1970 something. A 3-mile long alien spacecraft flew slowly over the city. Loads of people saw it. They went 19 something something. Alien spacecraft lands outside a African primary school. 2 aliens get out. One gets on the roof, starts mending it. Another one gets out, goes and speaks to the children, but without words, non-verbal communication. The headmaster realises something's going on, comes running out. The alien spaceship is gone. He speaks to each of the children independently, and they all describe the same alien spaceship. It's not a case of, are there aliens? They're already here. That's what he said to me. And I was thinking, is he joking? But it turns out, no, he's not joking. So what I thought was, there's tons of these conspiracy theories around So why not every week try and choose one? I don't want to go for the obvious JFK ones, and we'll talk it through and decide whether we think it's a load of shit. So the first one we're going to do is the Bermuda Triangle spaceship. I didn't want to just do the Bermuda Triangle, but it's impossible to do the Bermuda Triangle without mentioning
Without getting lost.
Getting lost. So, if you don't know, the Bermuda Triangle is a large area of ocean between Florida, Puerto Rico and Bermuda, also known as the Devil's Triangle. Apparently, since records began in 1851, it's estimated that an amazing 8,127 people have been lost in the Bermuda Triangle.
For an estimated figure, that's quite accurate.
It's in it.
I estimate round about 8,127.
It's in the low 8,000s. So, and the most famous story supposedly connected to it is about Flight 19. On December the 5th, 1945, a bunch of American fighter planes were doing a training exercise. They were going to bomb some little shitty bit out in the ocean, and they disappeared. And supposedly it was the Bermuda Triangle. So this has led to...
That's actually... Is that not referenced in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, isn't it?
Certainly is. You've been reading up on it. Have you read... That's it. Yes, it is exactly.
Yeah.
Now... What the idea is
that the documentary about the aliens coming to Earth?
And the man who builds a mountain of mashed potato.
Yeah, that's really happened. Obviously,
that's true.
That's true.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
So, some people say that the Bermuda Triangle could be a wormhole. It could be just some kind of crazy, super, unexplainable magnetic kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or and some people have backed this one up. And when I say some people, if you go on the internet, renowned zoologist, he's probably a nutter, but Ivan T. Sanderson, who's a zoologist, he hypothesised that an advanced aquatic non-human civilization may have evolved here right on Earth and actually been here longer than us.
Dolphins.
That other than just dolphins. And that apparently they may have been going to space for years and they just live under the waters. And there are records, if you speak to nutters, of craft under the water that have been spotted that are travelling far quicker.
Well, I guess that could kind of prove the fact there's a weird magnetic phenomenon going on there. But I did see a documentary about that, and there is some very strange magnetic forces going on. I think I'd probably think if I was going to hazard a guess, I'd say there's some weird phenomenon going on there, which has got some magnetic tendencies. I don't think it's spaceships under the sea, though. But
one of the other stories is someone said there's a 10-mile magnet hidden under the sea. How the feck would you not find that? Now
put it there.
What do you reckon, Andy? Where do you stand on the old Bermuda Triangle?
Don't stand on the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, you'll get lost.
It was just a bunch of pilots that got lost just after the war, and then every now and then someone goes missing in what is a vast expanse of ocean. And everyone's like, "Oh my God, Bermuda Triangle! Loads of people go missing."
Are you
There's gotta be
ruining
something.
the story?
Illusion, yeah. Sorry, the fact.
Well, there's clearly something in it because
I'm going to go to Florian in a minute to ruin it all anyway.
Florian would just destroy it.
I mean, there's clearly something in it if that number of people can go, walkies over that period of time since they've started taking,
Have you ever been to Bermuda?
No, I haven't.
No, exactly.
I mean, you can start by saying, okay, it's called the Devil's Triangle, right? Bermuda Triangle. If you've got 3 points, you have a triangle, unless they're in a straight line. So that's not a thing. It's just three. It's just
space,
referencing
right?
an area of space.
Yeah. So the question is, what's going on in that space for that to happen?
You might draw the same conclusion about the Sahara Desert. People venture out.
We're doing the Sahara Triangle next week. Every week is a different triangle.
If there's a novelty pop song written about it, it's probably bullshit.
You leave Barry Manilow out of this. How dare you? That song just shows what a fucking hypocrite Barry Manilow is. The fact that he starts off bitching about someone stolen his lovely fiancée.
Yeah.
They're sitting on her blanket and then they're going for a swim. And then later on in the song, he does exactly the same to another man.
Yeah.
That's the song Bermuda Triangle, if anyone wants to hear Barry Manilow. That's what we're referencing at the moment.
Yeah, so
a triangle.
and UFOs obviously are real because it stands for unidentified flying objects, and you just can't identify necessarily.
It's weather balloon.
Everything. That's
Never seen a weather balloon. I've seen more UFOs than weather balloons.
I've actually not seen a weather balloon either, other than on YouTube.
Yeah, no one ever has, other than in The Prisoner. Weather balloons.
Rover?
That's the real. Yeah, that's a weather balloon. That's what some of them were. They use other things, but they use weather balloons. But this is what I reckon. The real conspiracy is: there's no such thing as weather balloons.
Right.
There are aliens, and then people, for some reason, want to pretend that they're weather balloons. And this is all down to Michael Fish. All this weather predicting they do, the weathermen who get paid a significant amount of money to do it on telly, they make it up. It's all fucking made up, and they want to cover it, and so they've created aliens to cover their arses.
And you base this on the fact that they get a lot of the weather predictions wrong.
Yes.
That's probably closer to the truth.
And no one has ever actually seen a weather balloon.
Well, aliens do exist. That's I think out of the question in terms of
the chances of it.
War marriages. Says that,
However, them coming to Earth to abduct some people who go a lot and drink moonshine, I think is
goofy. Leave him alone.
Yeah, I was more referencing The Simpsons there, but Cletus.
It is always rednecks, isn't it? Pretty much.
It is, yeah, and it's. I mean,
take them all.
The thing is, the sort of drawing of the archetypal alien. It used to be fairies before that, and it's just this sort of design came up, and ever since the 70s or whatever, it was this almond-shaped eye, oversized head stuff. So there's clearly a bit of consciousness going on there. People sharing the same sort of idea.
As a footnote to this, has anybody seen that amazing Christopher Walken movie from the late 1980s called Communion? It is awesome.
I saw it, but I can't remember.
It's one of my favourite alien movies.
I think you told me about it. I don't think I've seen it, but
Ridley. No, what's his name? Ridley
Scott.
No. Christopher Walken plays. It's based on a true story.
Christopher Walken.
Yeah,
that's my impression, incidentally.
He plays a guy called Ridley somebody. I can't remember the name of the.
Is it the true? This is supposed true story where he gets kidnapped and then he gets
probed.
I might have seen it. Yeah.
And then he wrote a book about.
It's a bit where he gets cling filmed.
Cling filmed.
And then they cut a bit out of him. Or I think there's another.
They stick a probe back of his head and then they take him up into a spaceship, and he gets visited throughout the movie. He doesn't know what's going on. Goes to a hypnotherapist who discovers all this stuff.
Discovers he's lying.
Yeah.
You're a fucking idiot. That's the problem. Right.
It's interesting.
Just talking about stuff like aliens and all that. My dad, who is from Yorkshire, believes
from the Orion Belt.
He don't believe in anything. Like you could practically have a ghost walk up to him, say good morning, and
you mean he doesn't believe in anything supernatural?
No, he doesn't believe in anything. It's so hard work. Do you want your breakfast? Here's your breakfast, Chris. He's like, I don't believe you. No, he doesn't believe in gravity. No, he just floats around. No. He doesn't believe in any kind of fantastical nonsense. He thinks it's all in people's heads. He was out one night walking my dog on the park nearby at the time. Our dog, Flash. And as he was walking the dog, there was the sky above him was quite stormy. He says that the clouds started churning round, and he thought, that's interesting. And then he describes a large, he says it's kind of like saucer shape with lights on it, just coming down into the clouds. And even I've said to him, I says, do you think it was an alien spacecraft? He says, I don't know. He says, but I've never seen anything like it. He then he actually moved under a tree because he was so concerned about this thing. And then he says another smaller one came over and then kind of seemingly docked and entered it. And he stood watching it for a while, not believing what he'd seen, and it went. And he says he cannot believe that Waddington, which is a nearby airbase, didn't detect it unless maybe it's something they've got. Shit. But the fact that he doesn't believe in anything like that, to him to see it and kind of say, no, I'm not saying it was an alien, but I have no idea what it was. And he worked for the RAF. He'd never seen anything like it, and he said there was all these lights on it, and it was.
Was it making a noise?
I don't know. It was. I'd have to ask him about that one.
They never make farting noises. That would be if I was an alien, right? And I built a
That's
spaceship.
my main complaint with aliens.
I bridged like light years of distance, I would go and really upset people's perceptions about alien technology. I'd just really screw with them. And as I fly over a city, I'd go like...
It might take the edge off anybody who's watching it.
Well, like, we come in peace.
Yeah. Hey, can't say that.
Fucking aliens!
Yeah.
But just back onto the... So that's a little story about my dad saw this thing and he didn't know what the hell it
nuts,
was.
Isn't it? That is
But
bizarre.
the fact that he says it and the fact he doesn't believe in any kind of ghosty, supernaturally stuff.
Yeah.
But this is the thing about human perception. It can so easily be fooled because your brain tries to see patterns in stuff where there isn't patterns. So there's this famous experiment about people being given random numbers and they are asked to work out the pattern in it, and they come up with explanations. And they're entirely random. There's a book of random numbers.
Well, it's a bit like looking at clouds, isn't it? The human mind, the immediate response is to try and look at something and make sense of it in a human way, isn't it? It's a face, it's a rabbit, whatever it is.
I'm glad you said that because there's a chap called Larry Kush
Gotta be
who
American.
published a book called The Bermuda Triangle Mystery Solved, and he has basically said that it's all a load of horse crap. Not that this horse crap caused it.
It's making trips.
This horse took a
It falls
dump.
out of the sky and rains down on the ships.
You really will.
What he said is that he says first of all, if the Bermuda Triangle actually was 8,000 people's lost in it, if you were a ship going through there, your insurance would be higher, wouldn't it? Surely. It's not, and he says actually, if you look at any body of water of a similar size, they'll lose a number of people. He says a lot of the actual stories of ships being lost, if you check other parts of the world, you find the same story of a ship with the same name going disappearing. The actual Flight 19, the famous flight, which they said it must have gone disappeared, I found a transcription
They
of...
just got lost, didn't they, and ran out of fuel?
Yeah, that was it. They basically...
They turned round and flew out to sea rather than where they thought they were going.
They were mistaken by the rocks which they thought were, or parts of islands which they thought were actual things to help them. If you listen to the log, there's nothing mysterious. None of them had a working none of them had a working clock, and the compass broke on them.
How many aircraft were lost?
There was...
Wasn't it that they
quite
actively disbelieved the compass? The compasses were working fine.
Yeah.
It was just they actively
thought they were
disbelieved.
broken,
Yeah, and then they just started going off in all directions. Yeah.
And it's quite a well-known psychological phenomenon as well, which apparently it's like there's basically because you think you believe that essentially what you're seeing is the right thing because you want to see it. That you don't believe things like compasses.
It's true.
I
I could never draw a circle at school.
Even with oh dear,
That's bad joke 2 of the day. Yeah, but basically he says that there's nothing special about the Bermuda Triangle other than the fact that stories got created and then people attribute stories to it. There's no more losses there. And also he says, if you check the Earth, there are this idea of magnetic readings there being slightly off. He says that happens all over the place anyway.
yeah.
There is nothing special.
That's how they date some folds in the Earth. The changing magnetic field because it changes every so often. We actually do change in the magnetic field. So South and North Pole will switch within the next, they reckon 300 years, but it's like the big earthquake predictions. We don't exactly know when, but it's every 20,000 years or so.
Have they attributed changes in magnetic fields to the way that the brain works also? So people who think they're actually seeing ghosts or spirits, they are often in places where the magnetic fields can actually have an impact on their...
You're thinking the God helmet?
Yeah, will actually have an impact.
Isn't that what you call your penis, Paul?
Okay, a transcranial induction device.
But I'm going to start doing.
A transcranial induction device.
The God helmet.
Say later.
Ladies.
That's true, yeah.
I thought it can actually change your perception,
Yeah,
can't it?
yeah.
You know, you can actually hallucinate if you have enough electromagnetic
It's quite
energy
well.
in your forehead.
You can actually induce the sensation of a benevolent being standing just out of sight behind you. And a lot of people have described it as benevolent and angel-like. And the angel clearly comes from their education, you know, what they know about benevolent beings. Yeah. But it's basically stimulating your brain in some way too. But that's in some ways interesting and quite scary. So you know, maybe microwave weapons are real, and we're being thought controlled by the government.
Well, microwave weapons are real because
I can't actually say that with a straight face.
they brought down the two towers with microwave weapons. If you listen to some idiots,
Really
why
good.
was there all paper in the sky? Because there was a big plane taking hit the building, and all.
Why did it not burn? Because if you have a large explosion, then everything burns. You dickhead.
There's some really good videos on YouTube about some of the weapons the American government or military are developing.
Have you seen the Brown Note? This concept that they fire the gun at you and you shit yourself.
Yeah. But you know
Not seen that.
you know when Noriega fled to the Vatican. You know what high-tech weapon they used to
Didn't
get
it
him out
just
of
blast
the
him with sound?
Yeah,
Wasn't it?
yeah, basically ghetto blasters.
Yeah,
They just put like loads of.
They just followed him around, some CIA agents
They
or
just
something.
basically
No, they
outside the
besieged
embassy. They just
yeah.
besieged the Vatican State.
I've seen a video where they're experimenting with it's like a heat gun, and they tested it on a in a space scenario. This Marine had this heat gun and he was firing it, and there's sort of a weapon that doesn't actually kill. It just stuns the other person, and they just can't move because the heat's so intense. It doesn't hurt the person, but it just puts them to the ground. It's quite incredible. It's on YouTube.
And then do they shit themselves?
Would you like that to be the case? Would you like it if they did? Would it make it more
That
interesting?
Brown Note thing was a
Didn't they-
myth, apparently. Yeah. Anyway, chaps, I'm afraid it's the end of the show now. We've run out of time. So, it's goodbye from me, Steve. Goodbye, Andy.
Goodbye.
Paul.
Toodle pip.
Dr. G and daughter.
Hello.
Goodbye.
That was ghastly.